Crispin Perry, the spokesperson for the Department of Justice and Correctional Services, closing the press conference, addressed mainly by two people, Ronald Lamola, the Minister of Justice, and of course, someone we don't see very often, Advocate Shamila Batohi, the head of the National Prosecuting Authority. A lot to look at there around the Guptas, around Palapala. Well, let's get a view on all of this now and a better understanding of it. Our political editor, Lukhanyo Calata, joins us. Lukhanyo, good afternoon to you. Good to see you again. Firstly, the Guptas. I mean, this is an important moment. I think a lot of people are looking for real accountability in our politics, and the Gupta extradition matter is key to that.
Yeah, it is key to that, and I think what came out of the press conference today by the minister is the fact that they were able to submit their extradition request within the allotted 60 days. For the Guptas, and he stressed that again at the end to say that it would have been unreasonable for us to expect that as soon as the Guptas were arrested, we were then ready to file the extradition request and get everything ready. That's why there was a 60-day lead period, and they fell within those 60 days. So hopefully there will be a response then from the UAE shortly, because it seems that from our side at least, we did everything within the allotted timelines.
Shamila Batohi making the point that in most jurisdictions the head of a prosecuting authority won't come and talk very often. I think that's on balance probably correct, as frustrating as it may be to myself as a journalist. But to see her come out and talking about this specific case, how much is riding? I mean, we know the problems the NPA has had, the perception that the criminal justice system doesn't work. Yeah. That's one of the reasons we have so much vigilante killings so many vigilante killings in our country. How important is this for Batohi and the NPA to get this right?
I think, Stephen, it's very, very important for the country. I think because we also want to project an image out there to the rest of the world that actually we are a country that's governed by laws, and we do take a criminality serious. You know, when you look at the issue of Shrin Diwani, for instance, how he brought his beautiful bride-to-be to South Africa, had her murdered in South Africa, and then was able to escape the justice system and went back to England. I think that is something internationally where people are looking at us and saying, oh, you can get away with crime in South Africa. So I think Batohi understands, coming from the International Criminal Court, she understands how important it is for us to be able to project this image that we do actually take the law seriously, and if you commit a crime in South Africa, you will be held accountable for that. I also think for us as South Africans, it's important for us to see her. Because I think it does assure us that there is someone in the office, that she is serious about what she's doing, and she is actually working. So when she does come out now and again, I think it reassures us that, there are adults in the house.
I don't know if who that's a comment about. It's interesting because we talk about this case, and in a way this is an easy case for the NPA and the justice system. I'll tell you what's a lot more complicated is the Palapala story. This was what was said today in this press conference about the request for assistance for a person who crossed the border into Namibia. This person, of course, perhaps more than one, involved in the theft of US currency from the farm of President Cyril Ramaphosa.
It is not correct that there was no response from South Africa on the request of mutual legal assistance in the case involving Mr. David Emanuela. The Central Authority of the Republic of South Africa has transmitted correspondence through diplomatic channels to set the record straight with the Namibian authorities. During September 2020, the Department of International Relations and Cooperation forwarded a note verbal from the High Commissioner from the Republic of Namibia and attached thereto a request for mutual legal assistance dated 13 August 2020 by the authorities in Namibia to the Department of Justice in South Africa. In the request, the authorities in Namibia requested assistance from South Africa in a criminal investigation relating to the contravention of Section 456 of the Prevention of Organized Crime Act 2004 of Namibia. The request was perused and found that it did not comply with the provisions of International Cooperation in Criminal Matters Act of 1996. The request could therefore not be processed at that stage. The request was returned to DERCO on 18 May 2021, accompanied by a letter indicating to the authorities in Namibia how the request should be amended to enable South Africa to render the necessary assistance.
So that's Palapala. As I understand it, to sort of oversimplify, they say the Namibians want more information about our request. They're waiting for the Namibians to respond. There's an administrative problem. Names got misfiled. I mean, really? I think there's going to be a bit more cynicism here.
Look, I mean, it's quite complicated, but remember, I think it was in June, when the Namibian authorities basically said, look, we had made this request to the South Africans and they turned us down. So that was ultimately what was out there in the public. So I think what the minister was trying to do today was to say, look, let's set the record straight. The request that came through from the Namibians did not comply with our legislation for a request for mutual assistance. So we've sent it back to them and said, please fix these documents or amend the application or the request, and then once you've amended it, send it back, and then if it complies or if it's the way that it should be, we will most likely assist. And the matter is now sitting with the Namibians. It is a little bit complicated, but that's my understanding, I think, of what the minister was saying today.
Is there quite a lot resting, again, on perceptions of the NPA, the Justice Minister? Because this is all about the President. And I mean, we can scratch our heads and sometimes bang them against the table as much as we like. It is all about the fact that on his version, he had US currency in his home. The best interpretation that I can think of is that he broke Reserve Bank regulations.
Of course. So, and this is quite interesting to see how the NPA, well, they're saying that the matter is not with them yet. But it is interesting to see how the law enforcement authorities in South Africa deal with this matter. I think ultimately we all want to know whether or not it's true that the president had foreign currency in his house amounting to millions of US dollars, where he got that money from, and how come he never declared it. I think that is something that we as South Africans, we all want answers to, and we want the president to give us those answers. But before then, it's also important as to how the state deals with this matter, because we demand transparency. We do not want this to be swept under the carpet just because it is the president. If the president is guilty, it should be put out there, and we as the country should do the right thing, and we should ensure that the rule of law governs, and no matter who the suspected criminal is in this case.
I mean, once you start talking about Palapala, you just can't stop, because it takes us to so many different things. It is really the sort of biggest problem in a way that Ramaphosa has faced probably since he came to office. We saw the KwaZulu-Natal ANC conference over the weekend. I was surprised to see it didn't actually really come up. I didn't see the whole thing, but parts of it, you know, it didn't seem to be a big issue, mainly because they were focused more on Zuma, and then the way they were going to greet or turn their back on the president when he finally arrived.
Well, I think the president, you know, my reading of that situation, firstly, was that the president's hand was basically tied. He had to go to KZN. He had to be there to show that ultimately he is the president of the ANC, and that there's, you know, irrespective of what has happened at that conference, that he is there, and that this is the party, and that the party is united, obviously, in what it's trying to do in the build-up to the policy conference, and ultimately the elective conference at the end of the year. However, two things that struck me from the conference, Stephen. One is the level of ill discipline that I thought, for instance, was on show, was portrayed. The issue of the booing of the president. I'm not saying that you know, people shouldn't boo, but ultimately this is the president of the African National Congress, and if he's not safe within the African National Congress, where else is he going to be safe? And I thought that for me was quite problematic. The deeper issue, however, was the issue of tribalism. I thought that the way that things played out at the conference this weekend, tribalism has reared its ugly head, and that's a much, much bigger problem for the ANC to confront. Factionalism you can deal with because it's ideological. You know, we differ on ideology. You can change someone's view or perception on, you know, based on ideology. But how do you change someone's outlook on life based on when the issues are tribal?
It's a fascinating argument. I mean, it might go to elements of identity. It gets incredibly complicated. There's another issue within all of this, and we can put all of this together, because this is all about the rule of law. Getting the Guptas back is about the rule of law. So is Palapala. And yet the ANC in KZN says that they want to do away with the step-aside resolution, which is about not so much the rule of law, although it is, but about accountability. To my mind, much of the nation is crying out. There's a link between the ANC step-aside resolution, which, as you will remember, is a NASREC resolution, on an NGC resolution, on a 2012 Mangung resolution, not just an NEC resolution, and accountability. These things are all linked. And then we have the KZN ANC saying, no, just do away with it.
Yeah, because the ANC in KZN feels that it is being used on specific people, right? So that it doesn't apply uniformly. I'm not sure if that's the best way to deal with it, because if they do away with it, then Zandile Gumede, you know what I mean? Then she shouldn't be there. Then it applies to almost everybody within the ANC that has some sort of skeleton within their closet. And we know, Batabile Dlamini had told us that everybody has got a skeleton in their closet within the ANC. So I'm not so sure that it is the wisest move for the KZN ANC to try and do away with the step-aside resolution, because they feel that it's targeting certain individuals. Will they have enough power or enough people supporting it at the policy conference and even at the elective conference in December? I'm not sure. You know, I honestly, I don't know. I think it's one of those things that we will follow and we will keep a very, very close eye on.
Lukhanyo, Calata, thanks very much indeed. Our politics editor here at Newzroom Afrika, Channel 405. So much more to talk about. We could go all day, but people are telling us not to.